thank you so much for joining me. This is Amy and Brendon from EscrowTab, and I absolutely had to get them on here because when I was at the NNA conference, I went to EscrowTab's workshop, and the amount of people that were so excited about IPEN, like literally was eye-opening, because I'm somebody who focuses mainly on Ron, and so that's what I know. And I've never really thought about IPEN being, in a lot of ways, almost like a preferred version for notaries. And then going to that event just let me know how many people were excited about it. And so since I was so excited, I'm sure other people who watch my videos would be excited too. So I want to make sure you got on here to talk about IPEN, to talk about EscrowTab and all that it has to offer, because I think it is a great solution that people should know about. So first off, just introduce yourself and then we'll get into all things EscrowTab.
Amy, you want to kick it off?
Sure. Thanks for having us, Karen. We're really honored to be here on Side Hustle Seattle. And I agree with you. First of all, the NNA conference was outstanding and we were pumped to be there. When we did our presentation, I said, there is nothing like it. I've been to a lot of lender conferences and nothing had the level of enthusiasm and really passion for learning that the NNA conference had. So we're very excited to be working with notaries and signing agents. My name is Amy Moses, and I've been in the mortgage industry for over 20 years now, but this is really my first time diving in to work with notaries. And I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Communications at EscrowTab. And I've worked with Brendon a lot in the past at a previous company. And so now we're back together again at EscrowTab. So I'll turn it over to him.
Thanks, Amy. Yeah, I mean, the NNA, it really was a great conference. And I think the energy is driven by the fact that most notaries are independent business owners and really looking to grow their business. And that's what we heard most consistently from everyone. As Amy said, I'm Brendon Weiss. I'm a co-founder of EscrowTab. Amy and I had the pleasure of working together when we were both at MERS Corp. And while we were there, we were focused on digital mortgage and e-closings and how the industry was going to finally move forward with it. And as the operator of the Mersey registry, we had this kind of ability to work with all the different servicers, warehouse lenders, investors, and the entire community in really kind of making sure that all the pieces were in place in order for e-closings to happen. And that meant getting kind of the back end set up with investors and warehouse lenders and servicers. And then after 3 years of doing that, I left ICE and MERS and was really focused on how do we get the throughput now. Now that we've got the back end set up, how do we get the front end set up? And it was really all about having the right software that works intuitively and flexibly with those that are the users, right? And the primary users are title companies and signing agents. And while preserving all that business interaction that is really happening at the closing table, because a lot of people look at the closing as, oh, it's just a borrower signing their name on some documents and whatever. And the reality is that there's a heck of a lot more happening at that table, including the notary overseeing the legality of the transaction, right? So happy to talk more about EscrowTab and what we're doing, but thanks for having us on the show.
Absolutely, absolutely. So just if you could summarize, like, what exactly is EscrowTab? Like, you went into it and kind of how you came about, but like, what exactly does it do for notaries or for signing agents?
So number one, what you mentioned, it is in-person electronic notarization platform. And what it means is that notaries can engage with those borrowers like they do today, but the problem of managing all the paper goes away. And the way that we do that is we have the title company load up lender docs and title docs into our software. And then when they assign it to a signing agent or a signing platform who then assigns it out to a signing agent, that signing agent logs into their profile and they see, oh, I've got 5 to 10 loans to close today. And and they're done at that point. The documents have already been tagged, so they know where the signature locations are. We know where the notarization locations are. And what they need to do is make sure that that borrower, number one, signs everything legally. Number two, has a really good experience, because lenders are, particularly in a market like today, are really focused on making sure those borrowers have a great experience, so that when the market shifts, and it will, and rates go down and people decide to refinance, that they come back to them because they had a great experience previously. And that notary community ends up being the face of the lending community in many cases, right? You're representing those lenders and title companies in that experience. So what we want to do is make sure that we do this electronic, so that the first documents that get back to the title company and lender are completed 100% accurately. But then the borrower has a great experience, and that notary ends up being able to manage their life, their time, and their business much more efficiently than what they can to do today in printing off all these documents.
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, no, sorry, Karen, I was just going to say, adding on to what Brendon said and what you mentioned earlier, I love that you called IPEN the preferred version of notarization, because when I started with EscrowTab 6 months ago, that's how I first ran across your videos, was because you did have so many videos on Ron, and there's just so much information out there in the media. I like to call Ron the media darling, and there wasn't much about IPEN. But we all saw the enthusiasm that notaries had about IPEN, and again, echoing what Brendon said, because they can protect their local business with the in-person electronic notarization.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think the biggest thing is, right, like Ron is a big jump. You're going from completely in person to completely remote. And I think oftentimes you skip over the middle, what I call kind of what's in the middle, which is IPEN, right? Still in person, but electronic element of it. And I think for a lot of notaries, at least from what I hear of signing agents, they're like, Ron's just, it's a lot to take in, right? It's like I have to learn technology, and maybe I'm not technology savvy. And so it's like, how do I get on board with this new thing? But IPEN is a way for them to get on board with technology without having to completely learn something that they're not comfortable with. And so I think that's why it had such big enthusiasm, because Ron's either like, they're like, no, it's too much, I won't do it. But I think IPEN is one of those things that even if they're a little uncomfortable, they're willing to try it in a way that they're not with Ron. So I think it's like a great solution. And it was nice to see that at the actual conference. Now, mention IPEN, in-person electronic notarization. How does that differ from Ron? I know it sounds intuitive, but not everybody knows. How does it differ?
Yep. So number one, the signing agent and the borrower are meeting together in person for a closing like they would today. Number two, it is based on the e-notarization laws that were adopted in most states over 15 years ago as part of the Electronic Real Estate Transactions Act. And that really resulted in the ability to do it and the acceptance of it at the state level. But there's just kind of been, it's taken a long time to get both the software and the hardware to come together in a way that was going to be really intuitive to roll out. And, we feel like we've gotten that part of it right. And that's the basis. But importantly, like, you're in person, just like you would be today. And you're using a Microsoft Surface Pro or an Apple iPad Pro that's what the borrower and the notary are using to sign these documents, and really going through that same process and making sure that all the signatures are being captured. Our software works in a way that we're capturing the borrower's forensically verifiable signature on each of those signature locations. So as a servicer, you're not just going to, if a loan goes into foreclosure and you need to go in front of a judge, you're not only going with, the audit table, you're going in with the audit table and that forensically verifiable signature that borrowers put on those documents. And that gives kind of the belts and suspenders security of knowing that you can move with the but then also maintain the benefits that you get from a wet signed document.
For sure. Now, one of the things that I found, and you just touched on, it's like the law has been around for a long time, but it's taken a while for either the technology or people to get on board. And I found the same to be Iran, right? Like Iran in some states have been around for 10, 12 years, but it's taken a long time for people to get on board. Do you feel like we're now at a place where a lot of companies are, in fact, on board with using IPEN as a solution for signing?
Yes, I mean, it's being proven out right now that title companies certainly prefer it. And lenders, the hardest thing that we have when we start to communicate with a lender is that for 15 to 20 years, they've been conditioned to believe that they have to be the ones who pay for e-closings and who get set up for e-closings and procure all this other technology. And for that amount of time, that's been true. They've had to go out and get their own e-vault. They've had to go out and pay for the technology and then ask their title companies to use it. And title companies ask the notary field to use it. And it just hasn't really worked. What's unique about us is that we don't care where the documents are being originated. We're completely agnostic to that point. And lenders only need to follow their exact same process that they do today. So when a lender understands that, they're like, okay, so but don't I have to integrate my LOS with your platform? And we say, no, just send docs off to title like you do today. And then they say, well, I need an e-vault. And we say, we already have our own e-vault that we built. We will auto-register that e-note with MERS or the registry of your choice if you are doing e-notes. But if you're not doing e-notes, no problem. We'll have a wet note, but everything else will be electronically signed. And everything else is, the bulk of that packet, right? And that, once that lands with the lender, and they understand that this isn't something they need to take on, but rather the people they're already trusting to perform this part of the process are going to take on and pay for, that's a really powerful, message to them. And that's where we've been able to gain a tremendous amount of traction, is just that we're taking it off the lender's shoulders who, usually doesn't have the development and technology resources to focus on the closing process. And they'd be taking over a part of the process that they've never really managed before. Whereas with us, send it off the title, follow your exact same process, and you're going to receive a fully QC'd doc package back to you the same day.
Right. So what's key about that is we're not disrupting the lender's process. We're simply applying technology to their existing process. And that's a big differentiator. You hear a lot of talk about disruption out there in the media as well, but we're intentionally trying not to disrupt anything.
100%. So just to make sure I understand more from the title side, right? So I guess from the lender side, like nothing, right? From the title side, so they're the ones that are interacting with you and assigning it to XYZ loan signing agent, and then they pop on. If I'm a loan signing agent though, and I received a loan signing from whatever title company, am I allowed to then go on your software, upload that document if they allow me to do it electronically and do it from there? Or did you have that previous communication with whoever gave me the signing?
Typically, if that company is assigning you the documents, if the question is, are you able to just use EscrowTab without talking to the title company or to anyone else? The answer is no. But if the title company usually expects you to print off the documents and manage the documents, you could be loading the documents into EscrowTab yourself and then assigning it to yourself and meeting with the borrower. And
that was my question. Yes.
Yeah. That is certainly an option, as long as, you and the title company are on the same page.
Perfectly. Okay. So it doesn't have to, you could upload it yourself. Like it doesn't have to come directly from the title company.
It does not have to, no, because frankly, the notary is receiving the full packet at the end of the day, right? But typically, when the doc tagging functionality kicks into play is when the title companies loading those documents in and then having them go through the doc prep, and then they land with the signing agent. Same process can happen if the signing agent is taking the lead. Just a matter of making sure that everyone is on the same page and making sure that the package will be accepted through EscrowTab.
Absolutely. Thank you for clarifying that. And Amy, this is probably a question for you because, you know, you're marketing it and kind of going out and getting the word out. What do you typically hear from the signing agent side when you're trying to present this like new software and way of doing it? What's the typical like apprehension that you hear or the feedback that you get?
Yeah, that's a great question, Karen. I haven't really heard a lot of apprehension yet. I would say the biggest kind of question is what device can I use, which I know we're going to get to in a little bit, like how do I implement this? But mostly it's just sheer curiosity and excitement. So they're asking questions like, can I really do this in California? There are a lot of California notaries at the NNA conference, and in April, we were at the North Carolina e-closing conference, both states where Ron is not allowed. And so they were a little bit incredulous, the notaries in both of those states, that IPEN is legal there and that they could move forward with using EscrowTab, because I think they've had it drilled into their heads for so long in those states that, you know, they can't do Ron. And so they just assume that all types of electronic notarization aren't available. So that's one big one when they get that. And then realizing, I think the efficiencies is another one. And when they really think about, oh my gosh, so I don't have to print. I can't tell you how many times I heard that. I don't have to print one copy or two copies. I don't have to stay up late printing. I mean, that is mind blowing. Another part of it is that we can, or the title company, I should say, can send updated documents up until the time when they're driving to the closing, right? So that was something else that really stood out to people. So we're trying to really highlight the features that we've heard that notaries are excited about. And we received a stat from the title companies that said a notary can save up to $45 on both time and money per closing using EscrowTab. And so some of that, of course, is time, but we're saying you can have that time then to do more closings, to spend time with your family, give back to your community, whatever you want, right? Because you're not spending so much time printing, preparing the paper, driving to the FedEx, rushing to drop it off. So there's a lot of different aspects of the time saving. So those are some of the initial comments that we heard talking to notaries and kind of continue to hear. And there are people that are like, how do I get started today? Because I think they want to strike while the iron's hot and be one of the first, you know, to really use this type of product. So it's fun to market.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I was going to ask you that, which are like, what are the biggest benefits? I mean, not having to print alone is like, to me, huge, right? Like, first of all, it's hard to get a printer right now because they're like sold out. Ink is mad expensive. And like, who wants to do that anyway? So I think like all the benefits that you just highlighted, time is money. So if you save me time, like ultimately saving me money. So I think that is fantastic. Of course, I know people want to know, where is it available at? How much does it cost, right? Because if you're used to Ron, you're used to a fee, and like what devices can you use it on? So can you break that down?
Sure. So it is truly a nationwide solution. We are rolling out, we are active in, I think, about 42 states right now. And the remaining 8 states, it's really about making sure that we as a technology provider have the approvals in place in those states. From a price perspective, once the notary has a tablet, they're not paying us any fees for mortgage closings or HELOCs, any lending related documents. They're not paying us any fees at all. The fee is entirely carried by the signing company or the title company. And in some rare cases, the lender, if they're doing e-notes. But that is where the costs lie. We also have a leasing option now available for notaries. So the device itself, if they were to purchase the devices from us, it's about $1,100 for the device plus one of these styluses. And then the lease is about $65 with insurance protection per month. So, and then after, I think it's 3 or 4 years, when that lease period expires, then a new tablet is issued. But those are the options that we have available now. Most of the notaries that we've spoken to, to them, $1,100 for something that they can use for business and is going to make their life much easier, really solves that problem for them. Particularly if they're doing mortgage closings in, 10 closings, they pretty much recoup that cost in terms of time and efficiency.
And Brendon, I just want to point out, so it's purchase or lease the tablet, but it's all costs going to the tablet, right? There's no monthly fees, there's no subscription fees. That was another thing that we've been hearing a lot from the notaries, that they're a bit surprised that there isn't any additional cost for them beyond the cost of the tablet.
Absolutely. So you can download it in the Apple App Store and in Google Play or the Microsoft Store.
Soon to be, you will be able to download it in both stores. But right now, the devices are delivered to the signing agent with the software already downloaded onto it.
So if I know that it's Microsoft Surface Pros, right? And if they get it through you, it's a discount because Microsoft Surface Pros can be pricey. So for $1,100 for that stylus, that's at a cheaper price than they would get on their own. But it doesn't have to be that device, right? If people choose not to, it could be a different device, correct?
No, we kind of have our software run on those approved devices. If there were other devices that people had that met the right size requirements and the ability to process the software efficiently, then we would consider it. But we're trying to kind of stick to those two, because you'll get to see the each document pixel for pixel like you would if it were a printed sheet of paper. And that's valuable in a lot of states where they have some sort of requirements around it. But more importantly, it's about, this Microsoft Surface Pro X is a business tool, and it runs like a business tool rather than a personal device.
Yeah, absolutely. And so can anybody just go in and order it? Or are there like qualifications that need to be met prior to me ordering it? So let's say I'm like thinking about being a signing agent. I'm not a signing agent. I'm not even a notary, but I'm thinking about it. Can I, and I just got the 10-minute warning, but can I go ahead and get it or no?
I mean, we would probably wait for you to get your notary because we're certainly not going to ever put a stamp available to you in the software until we confirm with the Secretary of State that you are a notary in good standing, or with the signing platform that you work with. So we want to make sure that we're doing our own due diligence,
of course,
as well. But
Right.
We would encourage you to do that. Obviously, Amy and I have both gone through the notary process, and Amy might already be a notary and I'm becoming a notary, just for purposes of being able to go through the process. But we would not, set up a full profile for someone until they completed that.
Right. And I think if we walk through the steps, right, if notaries are interested right now, current notaries, they can go to our website, EscrowTab.com. There's a signing agent section. There's a form to complete. So it's just basic information, name, contact info. Then that is submitted to us. We review that, and then we'll send a second email to start gathering additional information from you. And like Brendon was indicating, confirm you are a current notary. And then there'll be steps after that, including, do you need to purchase a tablet?
Absolutely. So some checks and balances before you can just get on and get going.
Yep, absolutely. So all the notaries that completed that first step, for example, at NNA, we sent them the second email, and they're in the process of signing up right now and getting their stamp set up.
Perfect. Okay, that makes sense. So awesome. So I definitely want to get into the demo because we absolutely have to see it. So Go ahead and do your thing.
So this is what it looks like when you would log into the application in order to upload a document. And what you do is just come right here. Let's assume that you're going to browse your local files, and you would drag and drop whatever documents you're going to use for that closing. The alternative is that retrieve a document is if we have an integration with the signing platforms UI, or if we have an integration with the title companies CRM, where they're able to just access it directly from there. Once you open up the document, you can delete pages and kind of manage this document, move pages around, whatever you would like to do. You then save the document, and at that point, you name it. So we will say Seattle Side Hustle. We'll do that. And we'll say we're in Colorado today. Actually, we're in California, aren't we? Or Washington. Here we go. And we're going to say two signers. E-note, yes or no. If there's an e-note, then we will create that Mismo SmartDoc e-note for the lender. Send to auto doc prep. That is the functionality that identifies those signature locations and notary locations on the document. And then as that document is loading up into my profile, I would then assign it to myself or to a signing agent. Here I'm going to enter my email just so that you can see how it works as it's being assigned to a signing agent. You see that it now identifies me and I can assign it. And at that point, I go to the document list and I now have Seattle Side Hustle document ready for signature. Now imagine that you're the signing agent and you are about to meet with the borrower. So you're going to log into your profile for the morning and you're going to upload your documents. When you see that document that needs to be signed, you can either review it before the closing or start the signing. And when you start the signing, what's happening is that document is being accessed from our eVault. So a key thing about these devices is that they are LTE enabled, meaning just like a cell phone, you have constant access to the internet. You could also hook it up to Wi-Fi, or we're also adding in kind of a Netflix download functionality where if you knew you were going to be in a location where you wouldn't have either, you can store a limited number of documents on the device for the period of time while you're going through the signing. And then as soon as you hook back up to LTE or Wi-Fi, those documents get loaded back up into your profile. So once you log in, you kind of have the control panel across the top. The consent, you have to approve the e-sign consent, and importantly, the borrower has to have the right under e-sign to remove their consent. This next functionality is a reprint functionality. So imagine that the borrower signs in the wrong location, like they sign down here rather than up top. You can go ahead and just clear that one page. So all the rest of the signatures, all the rest of the notary stamps that have been placed on the document remain. You just get to re-sign that one page. And that's a really powerful tool that the signing agents love. When they're signing, they can lean on this device and really capture that borrower's forensic signature on the document. As you'll see, when I click back, that becomes a blue ink signature. And we have captured all the pressure points of that signature so that if you were to print this off and look at it under a microscope, you would see those pressure points there. The last piece is the notary piece. So when you log in, the notary might have logged in beforehand. When they come in and access their stamp, they will log in. And then what it will do is access my stamp. I can use that stamp, place it anywhere on the document, and then go back and fill in the date and other signature locations. So it works exactly like paper in that perspective, right? And then at the very end, once you've gone through the document, you click verify and complete. Now, if I had run the doc tagging functionality on this, we would get a kickback that shows that it wasn't completed. But here, after it's closed, you see that now it goes to a signed state. And that's it. You're done. Now you could go back to your profile and let me just update this, and then it will go to a signed state. You see that? It's in a signed state. So now the title company can access that document if they're the ones that loaded it into EscrowTab, and be able to record certain documents, send the documents that need to go off to the lender for funding to the lender, and complete that entire transaction very quickly. So you can see how their back office doesn't have to wait for any documents to be scanned in. They're not waiting for the package to be delivered via FedEx. They now have everything. And if the lender is doing e-notes, that e-note has been already registered with MERS and transferred to that lender's counterparty.
Brendon, you mentioned how title companies receive the documents, but how do the borrowers get a copy of their signed and notarized documents from the notary?
Yeah, that's a great point. So as soon as the closing is complete, the borrower will walk out of that closing with an email in their inbox, giving them a secure link where they can access and download their documents for their own safekeeping. And we will keep that link live for as long as the title company or lender asks us to keep that link live for the borrower.
Nice. Okay, so there's control over how long that link is live. I think that's awesome. So a lot of times we're capturing IDs, right? Pictures of IDs, things like that. Is that something that we're able to do through this software as well?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we just launched our ID verification functionality so that you are able to take a picture of that ID and scan that for purposes of, in some states, you have to check the state database to confirm that that's a valid ID. In other states, it's just capturing an image of that. And we just launched a new functionality that will allow the notary to capture that information as well.
So that's awesome, because that's one of the things that I was like, it makes it just a lot more seamless when it comes to that. So first of all, thank you so much for showing this. It seems extremely straightforward. I like the fact that if it's like pre-tagged and things like that, it'll pretty much stop you from being able to finish it if all the tags aren't done, right?
That's right.
Love that.
Yeah, Karen, I'm glad you pointed that out, because when we were giving this demo, we did it twice during the NNA conference, and two things happened. First of all, during the demo on Monday, the first day, there were a lot of notaries asking questions or giving suggestions. And by the time Tuesday rolled around, we were already working on some of those. So that's exciting that notaries are able to continue to give us feedback about how to improve this to make it the best software possible. And the second thing that happened as we walked through the demo and showed different features, notaries were cheering and clapping because they saw how helpful some of those features would be. So Karen, as a notary, I'd like to ask you, what are some of the features that really stood out to you when you watched the demo from Brendon?
That's a good question. I think, so first of all, just the general way that IPEN is set up, right? Like no paper, no printing, no anything. I love that. From a feature standpoint, the thing that sounded to me, the ability to clear the page if somebody makes a mistake. Because I don't know how many times I've been doing a loan signing and somebody's like, oh, you meant sign here? I'm like, come on now. Like,
I did it in my closing. I signed
Yeah. So I love that you can go back and clear the page. It doesn't clear the whole document. I also think the feature of like, if it's tagged, making sure that you don't miss anything, right? These are some like big documents sometimes, and like human error happens, but the fact that you have a software that helps mitigate some of that human error, like that's a huge plus to me. So I feel like it's one of those things that also just from like a compliance standpoint, it works in your favor in a lot of ways.
Yep. That is definitely a lot of what we hear from even a lot of title companies and lenders that are reviewing those documents when they get them back, right? And then they're able to know, that they can trust that verification and that the notary and the software all work together to really make it happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much. I feel like this is super helpful. I feel like I'm like feeling that like NNA feeling all over again. And I hope people watching this are as excited, because it honestly is a great software and it's so straightforward. And it's funny because when I was starting, I completely skipped over it, mainly because, I didn't have a car, so run made sense. But at the same time, like now that I have a vehicle and actually can go around, like, I don't know why I'm not doing IPEN when it's significantly easier than me printing the document myself. So I think it's going to be eye-opening for a lot of people.
For sure. Well, we would love to work with you on it. And thank you so much for having us. And we hope that a lot of the signing agents that are watching this will reach out to us at EscrowTab, and they can just go to our website, like Amy mentioned, at escrowtab.com and sign up for more information. And we'll send you everything that you need.
Yeah, and I want to add on to that too, that once a notary signing agent is signed up, we do provide training. That was another question I failed to mention earlier, Karen, that people are, it seems like, concerned. They want to be trained on the right way to do this, but Brendon's key phrase is it's super intuitive, which it is. And so it's easy to use, but we also will help in any way possible to get everybody up and running. So Karen, I agree. I have that NNA feeling all over again, and I would like to have that feeling every week. So thank you for bringing that back and for hosting us tonight.
Of course. Well, again, thank you. Take care, and hope to talk to you guys again in the future.
Sounds good.
All right.